Hi, my name is John Sfez, and this is my house and my sustainable project. You see, this is the design. The idea is that you have the house, and then we push the house at the maximum on the street and the maximum on this side to create as much space in the back and in the side. The way it was designed is like the fallopian tubes, like the womb. And so that's the womb, the water, and then that's the house is kind of the creation. And everything was planted around 6 months ago, basically. For probably a year or over a year before we even started to work in the garden, off-site, we went and picked up food scraps from 3 different vegan restaurants. We were going like twice a week with buckets, and we built thousands of gallons of compost for a year. Then we brought all that here. Then we brought a lot of mulch, and then we brought more compost and more soil.
And the idea is like the organic, all this mulch, it's all going to break down and turn into more soil later. So, the perennial peanut is a nitrogen fixer. So not only is it going to keep the soil from eroding, it's going to also be feeding the soil constantly. So it's just a wonderful ground cover, and you can keep it very low. People can even use it instead of grass.
On this side here, you'll see there is we did a mandala for our veggie garden for annual vegetables. Right now there is perennial vegetables in there, but that's gonna serve for annual.
Because we don't grow, annuals in the summer in Florida. It's too difficult.
There is a herb spiral on the other side there, but there is also herbs everywhere.
So the herb spiral is organized that the driest things are in the top. Because obviously the water's going to drain, and then the strawberries and mint and water plants, watercress, and that like wet are going to be at the bottom.
So that's a pollinator garden because the bees, they like that too. They do their thing, see? Mm-hmm. And so you have the bananas here. So whenever I have my food scrap, I just put it in there and put some straw on top of it. There is a 4,000 gallon rain catchment system, and so we are irrigating with that. There is 4 different zones of irrigation with the clock and everything, and so we can decide which zone gets irrigated and how long and all that. We have 17 fruit trees that have just been planted, and so you see that the mango, it's tiny, but it already gave 4 or 5 mango, which is crazy because
that's crazy.
It's not supposed to give mangoes when it's so small like that. So everything is really thriving.
Yeah, it's amazing. So they built the guilds around the fruit trees. A guild would be like this group of plants here. There was a thought process behind why they chose this group of plants surrounding a particular element. Compare this to a normal yard with a few bushes and grass. You're still creating some habitat, but very few species actually live in grass and bushes, So here you're creating habitat.
I am Jason. I'm over here at Tree Hugger Farms. It's been 2.5 years since we started planting this place out. We have a vast variety of areas happening, from orchards to forest gardens to annual vegetables. We supply food to CSA members, to local people at farmers markets, to restaurants. All this has been grown by the help of the community, ourselves every day working up from sun up to sundown, planting plants, and then people come in to volunteer and learn. And because of them, we've been able to create a paradise. And little by little, it just gets better every day. There's only one place but up. Yeah, thanks for coming.
The establishment here is going to be way different because it's a much larger scale. So when I came a year ago, it was a lot cleaner. Like it was a lot more, everything was in its place kind of thing. Because it's such a large area, you'd have to actually plant a lot closer together and make sure everything is planted, because whatever's not planted is going to get taken over with something, especially if you're not pulling it out and keeping up with it.
Where we're trying to get to is weed management of all our guilds by planting understory plants. Seminole pumpkin is a great one.
Okay, that's fast, right?
Fast. Sweet potato is a great one.
Right.
Okinawa spinach is a good one. Beyond that, we have not experimented with many other ground covers.
Yeah.
More than anything, cover crops.
Right.
Sun hemp. You got millet. Millet is Japanese millet. Did amazing for our fields. You chop it down. You got a beautiful hay, dry hay when it gets dry. So right here, what you're looking at is, for the most part, a wild area. Whatever's happening here is happening naturally.
This is the irrigation for the whole property.
That's it.
So they don't have city water here, and they dug a well for their own drinking water and stuff. But this is what irrigates the whole farm, and this was dug out by the property owner.
So inside of here, there's little rivers. You know, you can't really see it, but we know they're there, and they work because this whole road used to be inundated with water. So when you build a terrace system, what you're doing is you are allowing the water to infiltrate from the top to the bottom slowly. So slow it down and sink it in is really the goal. So in that way, you're not getting erosion of everything just sliding down a hill. You're able to also create mini micro ecosystems where you can sink more water in some parts than you would in others. Gray water system is reusing all the water they use to wash your hands, the water they use to wash your dishes. It has loads of nutrients in it because there's still decomposing matter in all that water. So when you lead it down the drain, it's a specific, like 2-inch slope. And we lead it onto the banana circle, and there's another guild over there. And that whole area has been getting just that. That's all the water it's been getting, and it's flourishing. It's beautiful. So we're moving from intensive interplanted, systems to production systems.
What they're doing so differently, which is awesome, is that look at these edges. So you have these edges that have like a surrounding ecology that's supportive of what happens in the field, So even though that is going to be changed out every season, this remains. This is a type of bean, so it's a nitrogen fixer. You have the sweet potato as a ground cover protecting the soil around it. You have, jatropha, which is another nitrogen fixer.
The edges is usually where the most productivity happens in terms of movement of energy. Lizards, snakes, mice go through there. These are corridors for these small animals that live in the farm, and there's enough diversity in the farm that takes care of natural predators will come in here and take care of the pests. Or when there's too many pests, that's almost a signal for you to say, stop what you're producing now. It's time to, seasons are changing. Move into your perennials, move into your fruit trees or whatever else you're changing into.
Hey, my name is Alicia, and this is Empower Farms.
This piece of land 11 months ago looked like that land over there, which is totally kind of bare. They're taking advantage of all the nutrients that were in that land, and they till it and they spray chemicals on it to kind of get as much as they can get out of it without putting anything in. And so as time goes by, it gets less fertile and less fertile, and they depend on more chemicals and more chemicals, and then eventually it just doesn't work at all anymore. Permaculture is different than that. Everything's placed in an efficient way to take care of and then to harvest and to fertilize. Like there you can see there's sugarcane right next to bananas, and then there's cranberry hibiscus, and then there's pigeon peas. Permaculture kind of practice is called chop and drop, which is where you just you grow stuff for the sole purpose of making mulch, and that way, no weeds are going to come up there and nutrients are going back into the soil. 100 years ago, there used to be pine forests around here. We are replanting pine trees, which is what used to be growing here. In permaculture terms, we're establishing a zone 5, which is kind of like the native forest, which makes everything else stronger because it attracts a lot of the native bird species or other animals. This area here, which are going to be kind of like vegetable garden beds, this kind of represents zone 2, where these are things that need to be looked after more often than things in zone 3 or 4, like fruit trees. First we set up the windbreaks, then we set up the garden beds, and then we got the garden beds under control in terms of the weeds, and now we have to start fertilizing them and growing things in them. We started building these beds with compost. The compost, usually it's a lot of like organic material that's decomposing, but that's not enough. Here we've got our kind of worm bin. We've got worms and we feed them food scraps. And then that vermicompost, we are going to in the future use it in what's called a microbialator, like a compost tea brewer, and that will put in our garden beds, which will just bring more kind of life to them and bring the soil to life itself. We have different kinds of irrigation for the different zones on the property. For instance, this windbreak area here that we built here, we plant stuff there that doesn't need tons of water, and so that doesn't have any irrigation. What we're trying to establish is what's referred to as a fruit forest. And so we're not just planting, 400 mango trees, we're planting a couple mango trees, a couple avocado trees, a couple bananas, star fruit, coconuts, pomegranate, guava, mamey, sapodilla. And so we're trying to create kind of like a diverse system that won't provide an obvious target for like pest infestations. Instead of having one giant harvest every year, we'll have a bunch of different harvests, so there's a little bit more kind of stability in the earning potential of the place, because even if we lose the crop of loquats, we'll still have the other 10. The other kind of important thing here is that we're trying to create jobs for people. And so by having all these kind of like little jobs that can be done all the time, we have opportunities for people to come out and give us a hand. It's an alternative to the way food is being produced on a large scale. You need more people. It takes time to set up a system. What you're aiming for is a system that kind of takes care of itself. You have to care and you have to know why you're doing it for it to work.